Hi, I'm Raylyn Worcester, and this is Spreading the Word. That's word with a capital W, as in the written word, the Bible, and the Word made flesh, Jesus Christ. So I'm about to read to you part 8 of And Then the Trumpet, the exciting sequel to Without Faith. When we left off, the rescued were just finally starting to get some benefits where they might feel human and vital again. And Imelda not only found a new home, but she also found a new relationship. And this is where we're going to pick up in part 8 of And Then the Trumpet. September 1st was not just a huge day for the nation's rescued. It was a huge day for Alicia Gonzalez. Today, she became the owner of Heavenly Coffee. Over the past 2 weeks, Bridgette had taught Alicia how to do inventory, ordering, bill paying, and had transferred the business account into Alicia's name. Alicia was still getting the universal basic income, but in anticipation of its demise, Bridgette was also paying her $25 an hour in Bitcoin. She helped Alicia set up her virtual wallet and taught her how to use it. Customers were still paying for their drinks with their Freedom cards, but when Alicia took over, both methods would be acceptable. At the end of each week, as long as the Freedom cards still worked, Alicia would use them to pay bills and order product, then would convert the rest of the credits received into Bitcoin, transferring her salary to her wallet and sending the rest to Bridgette's. Now the day had arrived and Alicia was beyond excited. She arrived an hour before the shop was due to open and hung the under new management signs across the front of the building. She unlocked the doors, turned on lights, and started brewing coffee. She flipped the sign to open at 5:30, knowing that the crowd would start trickling in for the morning segment of Now News, New America. At 7, Bridgette would show up, and the two women would sign the paperwork officially transferring Heavenly Coffee into Alicia's name, making her the new owner. The shop had regulars that loved both Bridgette and Alicia, who would want to welcome Alicia and say goodbye to Bridgette. The women decided to make the transition public to allow their most loyal customers to share their moment. Anyone there to witness the transaction would receive a complimentary celebratory coffee. To the delight of both women, the coffee shop was packed for JT's segment, and everyone stayed to witness the changing of the guard. After both women had signed the paperwork and set down their pens, the crowd cheered and Alicia and Bridgette shook hands while onlookers snapped photos with their phones. Bridgette stayed and visited with some of the customers she'd grown closest to, accepting their congratulations on becoming the next second lady, while Alicia returned to working the counter. When the crowd began to disperse, Bridgette left too. She gave Alicia a final hug and said, "It's all yours now. You've got this. I know I'm leaving Heavenly Coffee in good hands." She walked out the door and into the next chapter of her life. She didn't look back. Alicia sat alone in her shop. Her shop! She fixed herself a frappuccino and sat at the counter and just reveled in the feeling of being a business owner. She replayed this morning's event in her mind, remembering all the support and congratulations of the customers, her customers. She did a little spin on the bar stool, let out a little whoop, then finished her coffee and began to wipe down machines and tables. The coffee shop would begin to fill with the commuter crowd soon. She wanted everything to be perfect when they arrived. It was already perfect for her. Dear General, thank you, thank you, thank you. Today has been one of the most incredible days of my life, and it was only possible because of you. You made me your personal liaison, and with that came unlimited credits on my Freedom Card. Do you remember how reluctant I was to spend those credits when I first got them? You got quite angry with me, even threatened me, remember? I've had no problem spending those credits since the raids. I saw an opportunity to use the government's corrupt system for good. Today saw the opening of 2 locations of the foundation I started, Relief for the Rescued. I purchased buildings and yards and all the vehicles liberated by the resistance for use in the raids, and will be able to set up each person that had gone through the processing center, nearly 500,000 people, with 1,200 credits worth of Bitcoin and a vehicle for a fresh start. That's 600 million credits worth of Bitcoin. 200 people received benefits today, and today was just the first day of many. It was so exhilarating to be able to help and bless people in this way. Think about it, General. You are indirectly helping all those who'd passed through the processing center by setting me up with the unlimited credits used to purchase these things. The Bible says that God takes that which was meant for evil and uses it for good. The processing center and the camps were evil, General, but God is causing something good to come from them. Last time I saw you, you asked me if there was hope for you. There's hope, General, because even if you were once evil, God is using you for good. But I don't believe you were ever evil, General. I believe you've got a good heart in spite of the things you've done, because you were made in the image of God, and God is good all the time. I thank Him for putting you in my life. I've come to think of you as a father, General. Love, Gloria. It was October 1st, 2034, Inauguration Day. Samuel and Catherine Adamson and Christian and Bridgette Zacharias stood outside the Capitol building at 10 minutes before 12, preparing to take the oath of office. As was customary, the oath would be administered to the Vice President first. The current oath had been in use since 1884, but was adapted in 2030 by President Bright to say, New America, and leave out any mention of the Constitution or of God. Specific words were not required for the vice presidential oath, so this morning Christian would recite the original version. He put his left hand on the book in front of him, raised his right hand, and repeated after the Chief Justice. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. The clock struck noon. Sam now stood before the Chief Justice, who requested he put his left hand on the book in front of him and raise his right hand. Sam noticed with a disgust that was not reflected on his face that the book was not a Bible. He didn't know what the book was. It could be a dictionary for all the significance placing his hand upon it held. The oath meant nothing to Sam if he wasn't swearing on the Bible, any more than the bright revised version he was asked to repeat did. Unlike the vice presidential oath, there was no flexibility in what the president could say. Sam raised his right hand and repeated after the Chief Justice. I do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of New America, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the nation. The New America former Marine Band performed 4 ruffles and flourishes, then started Hail to the Chief, when Sam raised his hand, requesting them to stop playing. Am I officially president now? He asked the Chief Justice. Yes, sir, Mr. President, he answered, uncomfortable with this break of convention. Then my first official act as president is to rename the country the United States of America, and to legalize the use of Bibles corporately and individually. If someone could please find me a Bible, I would like to be sworn in again, only this time we will do it right. A murmur arose among the crowd in attendance. JT's cameraman zoomed in on Sam's face as he made his request. Bridgette suddenly remembered the Bible she'd put in her purse and hastily retrieved it. She handed it to the Chief Justice, who dropped the other book, entitled The Oath Act of 1789, on the ground at his feet. Sam placed his left hand on the Bible, raised his right hand, and recited from memory, I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. The conductor of the United States Marine Band glanced at President Adamson, who gave a nod. They played 4 ruffles and flourishes, followed by Hail to the Chief, while simultaneously a 21-gun salute was fired. Then the president walked up to the standing microphone to give his inaugural address. Today is indeed a historic day for our nation, the president began. When God created this world, he gave us an instruction manual. This manual contains the wisdom and knowledge necessary to keep this world and our nation operating as it was intended to operate, in love, in peace, in harmony with its fellow man. Not only has the instruction manual been ignored and deemed unnecessary, but it had also recently been made illegal to use or even own. The instruction manual I am referring to is, of course, the Bible, the same Bible I have once again made legal in my first act as president. People rarely turn to an instruction manual unless their device is broken or not working properly. I'm here to tell you that New America is broken. When 500,000 of its citizens can be arrested, secreted away, imprisoned, tortured, and even killed for reading an instruction manual, something is not working properly. It's time we not only read the instruction manual, my friends, but time we used it to fix our nation. Proverbs 22:1 in the instruction manual says, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Our nation had a good name, a name chosen by its founding fathers, the United States of America. But certain leaders wanted something new, something they could fashion into something they could control, and they threw out our Constitution and renamed the country New America. I'm here to tell you that new isn't always better. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And if it is broken, read the instruction manual and learn how to fix it. I plan to reduce the size of the federal government, putting the power back where it belongs, in the hands of the people and the state governments. There is a reason this country was named the United States of America. The federal government was never meant to control its people. I plan to legalize vehicle usage again and encourage home ownership. I will restore the rights that were taken away by the previous administration. We will not tell people what they can and cannot say, and we will not be arresting people for disagreeing with us. We will be instituting a fair monetary system that the government cannot manipulate in order to control its people. And finally, the Congress and I will be reviewing the Constitution of the United States of America. We will see what has worked and what has not, what is too specific or too vague, and we will institute a version of the Constitution by which our nation can be run fairly and equitably without infringing upon God-given rights. We will use the instruction manual as our guide in its restructuring. We've seen what happens when the federal government has unlimited control. We get a new America, a processing center, and detainment camps. As your president, we will once again have a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. We will once again be one nation under God. God bless you, and God bless this United States of America. As Sam stepped back, the Chief Justice assumed the microphone. In 1937, prayer became part of the inauguration ceremony. It has only been in recent years that it has been discontinued. Per our new president's request, I would like to introduce Pastor Gerald Whitfield of Sweetwater, Texas, to give a benediction. The 62-year-old First Baptist Church pastor and resistance leader of Section 5 approached the microphone and said, if you could all please bow your heads with me. Father, today we ask your blessing upon this nation, the United States of America, upon its people and its government. Give our new president and vice president wisdom to make right decisions and guide their paths as they undertake the monumental task of restoring the nation to the one you have always intended it to be. In Jesus' name, amen. A few blocks away at Heavenly Coffee, the shop was packed as patrons watched the live feed of the inauguration. They whooped and hollered when Christian took his oath, and their favorite barista became the Vice President of the United States. They raised their coffees in a salute when Sam demanded to be sworn in again the right way. No one appeared to object to the president's promotion of the Bible or intent to use it in governing the nation. No one seemed to mind the public prayer made by Pastor Whitfield. No one cried for a separation of church and state. If the attitude of those in the coffee shop reflected that in the nation, they had already done a complete 180, and perhaps there was hope for the country after all. There were 9 inaugural balls for the newly elected to attend that evening. All were black tie, and Sam and Christian looked dashing in their tucks and tails. But it was the women on the arm of each man that caused the paparazzi flashbulbs to burst. The women wore Janine Dupree original gowns created specifically for them, fitted to perfection, molding the desirable curves and artfully flaring away from problem areas. Neither woman had many of these, but in these gowns had none. The First Lady wore an off-the-shoulder ivory taffeta ball gown, the skirt of which was overlaid with rose gold lace in layered flounces. The waistline sparkled with a Swarovski crystal-studded rose gold belt, as did the matching tiara she wore in her hair. Her only jewelry was the pear-cut white sapphire pendant Sam had given her for their last anniversary. Bridget was resplendent in a sapphire blue satin gown with a strapless sweetheart neckline and low back. The gown fit to her knees, then flared out in plumes of peacock feathers which swished delightfully as she danced. Her décolletage sparkled with a strand of alternating emerald and sapphire stones set in platinum, which had been loaned to her for the occasion, as it perfectly complemented her dress. The president, first lady, vice president, and second lady put in an appearance at each ball held in their honor, doing the dance, wave, then dash off to the next. It was after midnight when each couple returned to spend the night in their new official residences. Catherine kicked off her strappy heels in the limo, and Sam lovingly rubbed her aching feet. When they arrived at the White House, he carried her all the way through the West Wing to the residence so she wouldn't have to put her shoes back on. The day had been a dream, the night a fairy tale, in which Catherine had been Cinderella and Sam the handsome Prince Charming. Christian and Bridget could have gone all night. At midnight, when all the balls had been visited and Catherine was danced out, it was only appropriate that the younger couple left when the president and first lady did. It was okay. Bridget was really excited to check out the residence. Christian had snagged a bottle of champagne from a table on their way out, and they popped it open as the limo entered the White House grounds and headed toward the Naval Observatory, their new home. Bridget sucked in a breath as the stately but beautiful Queen Anne house, surrounded by lush hedges and groomed lawns, came into view. When the limo left, Christian and Bridget walked hand in hand onto the wraparound porch and sat in tufted chairs to share their champagne and enjoy the night air before heading inside. They toasted Christian's new position, their new home, their new life. It was after 1 a.m. when Christian carried his bride, a little tipsy, though more from the sudden change of lifestyle than from the bubbly, up the stairs to the second floor main bedroom. He sat her down and slowly peeled away the gown, kissing exposed skin as he went. When the peacock lay puddled on the floor amid the tails of Christian's tucks, the couple continued their celebration into the wee hours of the morning. Life in the White House took on a routine of sorts. Sam and Christian were busy with setting policy and restoring the nation to rights, while Catherine and Bridget were busy with important social causes. Catherine started a foundation for the children, such as her brother and sister-in-law's boys, whose parents had been killed in the camps. She visited these and spent time comforting the children, reading them stories, telling them how brave their parents had been. She truly became stepmom to the nation. She found a purpose and a hole in her heart that had always existed in the periphery became filled as she mothered the orphans. Bridget was sitting in for Christian in a committee meeting he was unable to attend. She was headed to the meeting now, walking head down through the corridor, reading over notes as she walked. She did not notice the page carrying coffees, who had stopped in the hallway, back turned to her. The page turned around just as Bridget walked into him. The coffees went up in the air, coming down with a splash all over Bridget's suit, soaking the notes in her hand. She looked up, sputtering, coffee dripping from her hair. as the page began profusely apologizing. "Mrs. Zacharias, ma'am, I am so sorry." He attempted to wipe the coffee splashed on her face with a semi-sodden napkin. Bridgette took a deep breath and took a step back. She looked at the flustered page and said, "Preston?" Her brow furrowed as she tried to make sense of the situation. "Preston is a White House page?" She thought he would have been arrested along with President Naylor. What was he doing here, now? Of all the people I could run into, Preston thought. He had spent weeks avoiding the second lady, only to literally run into her in the hall, ruining her outfit and whatever paper she'd been reading. Bridgette pushed a dripping strand of hair out of her face, smoothed her stained skirt, and composed herself. "Preston," she addressed the page, "please go to the Roosevelt room and inform those assembled there that I will be 20 minutes late for the meeting, as I need to go home and change. Then get new coffees for whomever you were taking those to. Clean up this mess, and at 3 o'clock meet me on the veranda of the Naval Observatory House. Bring a mocha latte from Heavenly Coffee when you come, and do your best to keep it in the cup." "Yes, ma'am," Preston replied. Bridgette turned around and headed home to change clothes. Preston stood stunned for a moment, then hurried off to do as the second lady had bidden. Back home, Bridgette took a 5-minute shower, shampooing the coffee out of her hair. She quickly dressed in another suit and used a blow dryer to dry not only her hair, but her notes. They were coffee stained, but still legible. They would do. She hurried back to the meeting. She would think about Preston later. Other things required her attention now. Preston had plenty of time after delivering his coffees and cleaning his mess to dread what awaited him at the vice president's home at 3 o'clock. Soaking the second lady as he had was a firing offense, he knew. Heck, he'd had Bridgette fired just for using a wrong pronoun. This was her moment for revenge, should she want to exact it. And why wouldn't she? He had started to hope that he could work his way back up from page into some respectable position in the White House, but that didn't seem likely now. Well, he'd find out this afternoon. Until then, he would try to make himself scarce and avoid the hallways. The meeting went well, Bridgette thought. She'd represented her husband's position well, addressed his concerns, and allayed dissenting ones. She'd felt confident that she gained him support for a bill he wanted to pass. They'd been a bit annoyed at the meeting's delay, but when she relayed the reason and was able to paint a humorous picture of herself dripping in coffee, tensions lightened and it was smooth sailing from there. Now it was 20 after 2, and she had no more appointments for the day, so she headed home. On the way, she said a little prayer, asking God to help her deal with Preston in a way that would be pleasing to him. Once there, Bridgette changed out of her suit into jeans and a light sweater and went onto the porch to wait for Preston's arrival. Preston's hands shook as he approached the wraparound porch of the Naval Observatory House. He stopped on the lawn a moment and took a deep breath, steadying his hand. He could not afford to spill coffee on the second lady twice in one day. As he reached the steps, Bridgette called out to him, "Preston, come on up and have a seat. You can set the coffee on that table right there." "Thank you." As Preston sat in the tufted chair next to Bridgette, he suddenly felt ashamed of his previous treatment of her and had trouble meeting her eyes. Bridgette picked up her coffee and took a long draw on it. She saw how uncomfortable Preston was. She wanted to make him sweat in the silence for a minute. What doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God? The spirit within spoke to Bridget. She heaved a sigh and said, Preston, it's just us here. Nothing said here goes any farther. Let's have an open and honest conversation, okay? He looked up, nodded, and she saw something that looked like relief dawn in his eyes. How did you come to be a page in the White House? Well, you know President Naylor was arrested on July 4th. I came in that morning and had no one to report to. Speaker Lee said I could work with the interns until something was figured out for me. At the tribunal, I provided proof of President Naylor's complicity with Operation Roundup. In exchange, I was not arrested and was allowed to remain in the White House as a page. Did you know what was happening at the processing center and at the camps to those who had been arrested? She asked. He nodded, a look of shame on his face. Did you agree with it, make suggestions, or help in any way? He remembered calling the militia to have her fired, her card turned off, and have her evicted from her government condo. I took notes and made phone calls to the general when the president instructed me to. He was the one who had me fire you, too. He shook his head. I wish I'd had the courage to stand up to him and tell him that I thought what he was doing was wrong. But, but, she encouraged. Well, he was the president, and I wanted a career in politics. There. He told the truth. His ambition got the better of him. Let the chips fall where they may. Bridget digested this a moment and then said, And how do you feel about the current president and his vision for the nation? You can be candid. Nothing you say now will be more harmful to your career than anything else you've already done. I voted for President Adamson, he replied. I think he's just the man to get the nation back on track, and I support him 100%. For what it's worth, I think your husband is a great man too, and they make a good team. Bridget finished her coffee and said, You no longer need to avoid me or walk on eggshells around me, Preston. The past is forgiven. You are forgiven. When Jesus forgives, it's as if it never happened. Because I strive to be like him, that's how it will be with us. Preston let out the breath he hadn't been aware he'd been holding. You are very gracious, Mrs. Zacharias. Thank you. You're welcome. When we are not in public, you may call me Bridget. When we are in public, let's both try to be a little more aware of our surroundings, okay? You've got a deal, Preston said, extending his hand. Bridget brushed it aside and gave him a proper side hug instead. Both were smiling as Preston left the premises. So what do you think? Bridget asked Christian as they finished their dessert. I think you are very gracious, Mrs. Zacharias, he said with a smile. Bridget had just told Christian about her run-in with Preston in the hallway, her past experience with him, and their conversation on the porch. That's not what I meant, she said with mock exasperation. I know what you meant, he said. I think it's a good idea. I'll talk to Sam about it tomorrow. Dear General, I was lying in bed, unable to sleep for the memories scrolling through my mind when it occurred to me that you really know nothing of my past or how I came to do the things which led us to where we are now. Would it surprise you to know that I volunteered to work at the processing center because I agreed with what you were doing there? Before I came to the processing center, I worked in a reproductive health clinic. I firmly believed in a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body. I saw the picketers outside the clinic being hauled away by militia on a daily basis and thought, good, those narrow minded bigots should be taught a lesson. When the opportunity arose, I took the position in commodities so I could see them get what they had coming. One day while I was there, I got a bad case of food poisoning. The restrooms were full and the need was urgent, so I ran to the latrine pits. In my haste, I tripped and fell face first into a pile of excrement that had missed the pit. As I lay there, stinking, humiliated, an old woman with half a bottle of water approached me. It was early in the day, and she used what was left of the day's ration of water to wet her own skirt and use it to clean off my face. The tenderness of her action and compassion in her eyes brought me to tears. Her forehead said her name was 842. I was wearing the black and gray uniform. This woman knew I worked there, that I was one of those holding her captive, yet she helped me at great cost to herself. I asked her why, and she said that Jesus loved me and he wanted her to help me. She loves him, so she did. I wanted to know more about this man who could cause one to love and help his enemies. So I asked her, so I arranged to meet 842 in the pits every day for a few weeks. During this time, I learned that 842 was Anna, and I discovered that I wanted to have the kind of love and compassion she had. I wanted a relationship with Jesus too. He became my Lord and Savior in the same latrine pit where his precious word was being used as toilet paper. The Spirit of God first spoke to me at the end of the first run when Anna and all the rest had been sent off to the camps. He filled me with compassion for these and told me there was something I could do to help. He showed me in dreams exactly how things would unfold, like a movie projector playing in my mind. I knew you would pick me for your special assignment, and I didn't burn the Bible pages. I burned the old maps and rule sheets in their place. That's why I volunteered to make new ones. The rescued Bible pages I smuggled out in my pants, then hid until the day Imelda smuggled them the same way into Camp Bouse to encourage those awaiting the beheading. My relationship with Christ changed everything. My outlook, my goals, my personality, the trajectory of my life. He gave me favor with you. He taught me how to spy for the resistance and protected me while doing so. He later led me to Anna out of the hundreds of thousands at Camp Berkeley and helped me rescue her from that place. He continues to bless me and has put me in a position where I am able to help all of those you called containees. I can help you too, General. I can't rescue you from your prison as I did Anna, but I can do what she did. I can introduce you to Christ, and he can set you free. Free from guilt and condemnation, free to love and worship him. Free to know true love and peace for maybe the first time in your life. Doesn't that sound good? Don't you crave that? I did. It's a simple process, General. You just humble yourself. You just tell him right there in your cell, he is there with you, that you know you are a sinner that you are sorry for your sins, and that you want Him to rule your life. I pray you do, General. It's the greatest gift I can give you. I feel like I will be able to sleep now. I just needed to get all that off my chest. God bless you, General. Stay safe, stay sane. I love you, Gloria. Good morning, New America. This is JT Hadlock with all the now news in the nation. There's been a lot of change in our country since the raids, and there is one more on the horizon. I'm here to tell you all about it. Our morning segment starts right now. First item on the agenda is a change to my program. I can't be Now News New America if New America no longer exists, can I? He said with a shrug. Now, the call letters NNNA is trademarked, so that can't change. Effective this morning, the company will be called Now News North America. I will still be bringing you all the now news in the nation, but heck, I might just extend the program into Mexico and Canada, JT said with a wink. He took a sip of his coffee and continued. There's big news from the White House this morning. President Adamson has announced his appointment of Preston McDougal to Chief of Staff. Preston, who was President Naylor's Chief of Staff, has been cleared of any wrongdoing in the Naylor administration, and President Adamson is certain he will be an asset to his administration as he had been to the former president. President Adamson said that he doesn't intend to change everything the former president did, just the things that didn't work. In other words, everything but Preston, JT said with a chuckle. Our president will be joining us on my 6 p.m. segment tonight with specific changes that will affect every citizen in the nation. You won't want to miss it. Finally, tomorrow is November 1st, 2034. Tomorrow sees the opening of 4 new car dealerships across the nation. As you will recall, both gasoline-powered and electric cars were legalized last week, and gas stations and charging stations are once more allowed to operate. GV Enterprises, doing business as Rescued Rides, will be selling all of their vehicles for half their Kelley Blue Book value. These are being sold 1 vehicle per family on a first-come, first-served basis. There are 4 dealerships across the country. They are located at 110 West Raleigh Street in Henderson, Nevada, 6511 East Rice Street in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 4425 Contractor Drive in Montgomery, Alabama, and 2324 North 7th Street in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. All locations are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Also, any of the rescued who received a vehicle voucher may redeem them beginning tomorrow morning. Looks like tomorrow is going to be an exciting day. Don't forget to join us tonight at 6 p.m. for an address from President Adamson. For Now News North America, this is JT Hadlock. JT out. Bzzz, bzzz. Connie heard the building intercom buzzing from the bedroom. She got out of bed and headed to the pad by the front door. Who would be coming to see her? And at this time of morning? She pushed the intercom button and said, "Yes?" The voice on the other end said, "Constance Greenbaugh?" "Yes, who is it?" "Delivery." "I didn't order anything." "It's a letter from Branchville Correctional Facility." "Oh, okay, thanks. Buzzing you in." She held down the button that allowed the door to the building to open. A few minutes later there was a knock at her door. She looked through the peephole and saw a bicycle courier holding a letter. She opened the door as far as the chain lock allowed, and he slid the letter through to her. I'm sorry. I The courier cut her off mid-sentence. No tips required. Have a nice day, ma'am. He turned to leave. The courier never expected tips from this building. These people were poor. And if the lady had someone in prison, she had enough troubles. He wouldn't add to them. She took the letter and walked to the chair in the living room. Teddy! It's from Teddy! She thought excitedly before remembering that he was in ADX Florence in Colorado. She tore open the letter with shaking hands and began to read. Hello, Mother. Thought you'd want to know that your dreams for me have come true. I'm right where you always said I would end up, in prison. So much for Uncle Teddy keeping me out of trouble, huh? What a joke. He's in a worse place than I am. So who's the screw up now? I'm doing a nickel in Branchville minimum security in Indiana. I'll be out in 2.5 years. Gonna be on my best behavior. I've got a friend I need to see when I get out of here. Don't bother to make the trip to come see me. I will refuse the visit. I just thought you'd be worried about your little boy and would want to know where he is. So now you know. I know I've always been a disappointment to you. I sometimes feel bad about that. You did the best you could. I'm just me. Don't waste any time worrying about me. I always get out of every scrape I get into. I'll get out of this one too. You probably won't hear from me again. Better this way. Eric. Connie dropped the letter in her lap and wept. She wept for the way her son had turned out. She wept for the lack of relationship she had with him. He was not conceived in love, nor born into a loving, nurturing family. Was it her fault he turned out this way? It didn't matter now. Eric was gone. He wanted nothing more to do with her. Teddy was gone forever. All she had was herself. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and straightened her back. She'd spent her entire life afraid. Afraid when her parents died. Afraid of the orphanage and the boys there. Afraid of Carl Greenbaugh. Afraid she couldn't provide for Eric. Afraid of losing Teddy. That stopped today, Connie resolved. If she was all she had to be something better. She deserved more. She looked around the dingy apartment. She'd start here. She'd clean and paint and make it nice. Well, nicer, anyway. Connie smiled. For the first time in her life, Connie didn't feel afraid. She felt in charge of her destiny. She felt good. And that's where we're going to end part 8 of And Then the Trumpet. I hope you're enjoying the story. Please remember to like and subscribe and share not only this story, but the prequel, Without Faith, with your friends and family. And in this way, you too are helping to spread the word. Thank you, and God bless.